Hey everybody, Hunter Enright with Med School Coach here, and today we are talking about study plans, but specifically really short, like tiny little baby study plans. We all know the MCAT, it's a monster of an exam, 7.5 hours, yada, 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 yada. Now, most people take about 3 to 6 months to prep for the MCAT. Today, we're talking about those 3-month study plans. So like really the bottom of like the shortest that we usually recommend to people. If you are planning on doing a 3-month study plan, I got good news and bad news. Okay, the good news is, hey, you're going to be in and out and done with the MCAT super quick. In the grand scheme of your life, the MCAT is not going to take up a big chunk of it. The bad news is that there's no shortcuts. That means we still have to do all the same things that everyone else has to do to prep for the MCAT. We just have less time to do it in. So buckle up, because these 3 months are going to be wild. But if you hang out with us to the end of this video, you will be equipped with all of the tips, tricks, strategies, and just generally the know-how of what you should be doing in those frantic 3 months where we're prepping for the MCAT. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive into it. All right, let's talk about month number 1. Actually, let's talk about like day number 1. Okay, so day 1, you got to do a diagnostic test, and it's not going to feel good. You haven't even started studying. We're going to dive into an exam, but there is a reason for it, right? You got to set a baseline. You got to know where you're starting from in order to kind of track your progress. And also, for some of us who might be thinking, no problem, I can get this whole MCAT thing done in 3 months. It might be a wake-up call to, hey, maybe this test is a little bit more difficult than I expected. Now, there's a bunch of free practice tests out there that you can find. There's a bunch of half-lengths out there. We've got a half-length diagnostic. AMC's got a free one. So there's a lot of different resources you can use for it, but please, 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 day 1, in fact, even before day 1, day 0, get that diagnostic done. So now that you've got your diagnostic out of the way, the next thing to do is to start your in-depth content review phase. I don't care who you are or what you are, we all got to do some content review for this test, okay? It tests us on 4 years of undergraduate science classes, everything from Gen Chem to organic chemistry to physics, oh my, right? So there's everything that's going to be on this test. We got to do some content review. There's books, there's lots of videos. We have the MCAT Prep app, which has hundreds of videos, quizzes, flashcards built into it, and it all fits in the palm of your hand. So hey, that's a great way to do it. Regardless of how you're getting your content review, you have to do an in-depth content review phase. And that's what we're doing right here in month number 1. Now, as if content review wasn't enough, this is also when you are going to start doing daily CARS passages. I said daily. Minimum 1, more than 1 would be great, but you have to start now, because CARS, unlike the other sections on the test, isn't like science or content based, it's skill based. It is critical reading to a T, and it takes time to develop those skills if you've never really spent time honing them before. So start doing daily CARS passages now. It's only going to get better. Yeah, this is the worst it's going to be. And last but not least, kind of in the background while you're doing all this prep work, you should also be looking at medical schools that you're interested in applying to after you're done with the test. If you haven't done this, please get to it, all right? It does a couple things for you. Number 1, it tells you what your goal score should be. If you're looking up medical schools and they have an average MCAT score of, I don't know, like 510 or something like that, great. 510 is what you're aiming for. If you look at the schools that you want to go to and they're a little bit more competitive, 515 or above, all right, we have to push ourselves a little bit harder. It also, as like kind of a underlying thing, makes the whole thing a little bit more real for us, kind of like psychologically, and it gives us a purpose to this pain. So if we look at the medical schools and we go, hey, I need to get this score to go to this school in order to become a doctor, that solidifies the dream, right? And it gives us a purpose to push ourselves through the MCATs. This is what month number 1 is all about, okay? It's all about doing your content review, setting baselines, and then setting goals for yourself over the next couple months. Month number 2 is all about finding balance. Month 1, phase 1, we were just diving into content review, making sure that we knew everything well, as well as we could. Month number 2 is all about continuing that content review, because I guarantee nobody's gonna memorize everything in a single month, but also starting to incorporate a lot more practice questions and passages. This is kind of where, in my opinion, the fun of MCAT prep actually starts, right? It's when you can take the knowledge that you've been learning and apply it to questions and passages and start to see your improvement. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, the beginning's gonna be rough. In fact, I've had a lot of talks with my tutoring students about like, what the heck, Hunter, I've been studying these resources for over a month, months sometimes, but my score isn't increasing. And that's not atypical, honestly. That's kind of the norm. Because as you will quickly find out in month number 2, the MCAT is not a memorization test. Okay, it is all about critical thinking, logical reasoning, and applying the content and science foundations that you've been learning so far. Just having everything memorized, not gonna cut it. That's the bare minimum, right? You must be this tall to ride the ride. And I always like to tell my students, the MCAT doesn't reward you for having your content memorized, it expects it, right? So month number 2, this is where we get to start to dive into questions and kind of see what we're really in for. Now, month number 2 is also when you're going to start taking semi-regular practice exams. We already took a diagnostic kind of see where we started off at, but now we're gonna start to take full-length exams, really hoping to see some progress. We've got 3 full-length exams at Med School Coach. There's tons of other ones out there as well. The only thing I'm gonna say is to hold off on your AAMC practice tests. We're gonna save those for phase 3. So just kind of find some third-party ones. Med School Coach is a great option, but there's tons of them out there. As long as you start doing the practice, that's what's important here. Speaking of practice exams, just taking them over and over and over and like grinding them out is not necessarily going to result in a higher score. In fact, a lot of the times it doesn't. You've heard of the infamous plateau. That's what a lot of people experience here if they're not properly reviewing their exams. Okay, just taking it unironically is only part of it, right? It's we have to take the test so that we can do the important thing, which is review it. And when I say review, I mean in-depth review. Every single question, read every single explanation, and make sure you understand it thoroughly before moving on. Right? There's a lot of different tools out there to kind of keep track of your mistakes. I highly encourage that because a lot of times when we take the test, we kind of black out and we don't think about what we're doing in the moment. But that review is your perfect opportunity to sit down and go, why did I miss this question? What mistakes do I need to correct? Did I need to know any content, or was it something else? Was it a skill-based mistake rather than just a memorization mistake? All of these things you need to ask yourself for every single question. And lastly, when you're done reviewing those mistakes, you have to go back and find what topics were kind of your big sore spots, your weaknesses, and you have to target those specifically, right? So it's kind of a 3-step process. You take the exam, you review the exam, and then you follow up the review with more content studying, right? Do you need content? Do you have to practice something? Do you need to do study sheets, flashcards, whatever it is? Plug the gaps in your content knowledge that these practice exams are kind of surfacing for us, right? They're not beating us up. They're not our enemy. They're showing us, hey, you should probably cover X, Y, and Z before you go take the real thing. So, in a way, practice exams are our best friends, especially when they hurt us. That sounds like I have a problem. All right, month number 3 is where everything kind of comes together, right? Month number 1, we were doing a lot of content review. Month number 2, we were starting to incorporate practice and finishing that content review. Month number 3, practice all the time, but specifically AAMC practice. Now, any of our tutoring students that hang out with us get all the AMC materials included for free, but if you're not a Med School Coach student, I highly, highly recommend picking up all of the AAMC resources that they offer and using them to their fullest in this final month. Now, third-party resources are fantastic, right? I've done thousands of practice questions that weren't from the AAMC, but when it comes to the time right before your exam, you really, really want to focus on AAMC only materials because despite all of us trying to be exactly like the test, the AAMC is going to be the closest to the actual thing. They're called the gold standard of prep resources for a reason. So you're going to want to dive into all of their different question packs, question banks, CARS diagnostic tools, section banks. They've got a bunch of practice exams, so lots of stuff for us to do. But the important thing is that for the 4 weeks leading up to our actual exam, every week we're doing one practice test, right? You don't want to do more than one. That's a really easy way to burn out right before the exam, but you also don't want to, miss out on the opportunity to review those exams. Remember, the review is the actual important part. So the 4 weeks leading up to your actual exam are pretty relentless. As an example, here's what my calendar looked like. Saturday was test day, so I would all day Saturday take a test. When I was done with it, I was done with MCAT for the day. That's about 7.5 hours, 8 hours. That's like a full shift at work. So truth be told, a lot of times after I finished my practice exam, I would just close my laptop and not look at the score because it might ruin the rest of my Saturday. But regardless, I would look at my score on Sunday and, be elated with joy or slightly disappointed. Regardless of how I felt after looking at the score, I would start my review. And the review process can take a very long time. You know, it can take 8 to 12 hours if you're really going through every question and teaching it to yourself to the fullest that you possibly can before moving on. So don't freak out if it is taking you like several hours. We normally say like 1 to 3 days is kind of average to review a full-length exam. Now, when you're done with the review, you're gonna have this list of mistakes that you've made, and hopefully you can kind of start to see either some trends or patterns, or at least some recurring topics that keep kicking our butt for some reason, right? The next step is to practice those, right? Either with AMC resources, they have specific resources for specific subjects, or you can do targeted content review if that's what you need, right? If you take an exam and go, oh no, I forgot this equation. All right, just go study that equation for a little bit. This final stretch is also where you need to start being concerned with not just content or critical thinking, but the third piece to the MCAT, which is test taking skills, right? How is your pacing? Are you staying focused? Is your endurance making it so that you're crashing out halfway through the exam, or can you make it all the way to the end? So those are kind of like the peripheral things that we have to kind of keep in mind, in addition to 4 years of science plus critical thinking. So this is the time where you kind of start to worry about those things, and we're really just trying to squeeze out as many points as possible right at the very end before the test. And that's it. That is a full 3-month study plan. You got to do your content review phase, you got to hit your practice phase, and you have to hit your AMC phase. Now, it's way easier said than done. Trust me, I know. So let me give you a couple tips to keep in mind throughout the entire process that'll kind of help keep you sane, honestly. Number 1, adaptability. Adaptability is key. I've had so many people ask me, what should I be doing on exactly what day, how long, how many questions, how many flashcards, et cetera, and there never really is a good answer because everyone is at different places, right? If your problem is memorization and definitions, great, flashcards are for you. But if that's not your issue, if it's critical reading or, logic issues, you got other things to do. So it's never one size fits all. Not just between individuals, but within yourself too. Something that works for you last week might not work this week because, hey, you did it last week and you're tapped out and it worked. Find something else to do. Something that I like to tell a lot of my students is that prepping for the MCAT is kind of like jazz. You just kind of have to make it up as you go, and you're following like your own intuition of what is working and what isn't working for you. Personally, I found that taking full-length exams and doing lots of practice questions was the greatest thing for me. It made my score jump leaps and bounds right at the end before my actual exam. However, for some people, that's not the case, right? For some of us, we got to do a little bit more content review because it's been several weeks or months since we've actually read our flashcards or looked at our notes. So you have to be willing to think on your feet and adapt if something isn't working for you. Okay, so my next tip focuses less on the test and more on you or us. In the case of preppers, it's all about maintaining your physical and your mental well-being. Okay, this test is monstrous. It's absurd. It takes up a huge chunk of our life. It's one of the hardest exams that any of us had to do up until this point in our academic career. And if we just kind of sit in a hole and do nothing but MCAT all the time, it's an easy way to burn out. Right? So be sure to take some breaks, go for walks around your neighborhood, around your building, whatever it is. Just get out every once in a while and remember that there is a big world out there past the MCAT. And actually, on the subject of mental health, this exam is so mean to pre-meds because, no joke, I've been teaching pre-meds for about a decade. And for the majority of interactions, y'all are the smartest people in the world, right? But this test has a really bad habit of convincing us that we're not. And I'm not even just trying to blow hot air or pump up your tires to make you feel better or anything. Genuinely, if you have completed 4 years in a bachelor's program, you have a degree in science, you are much more science literate than most people. But the test makes us feel like we're literally illiterate. That's a fun oxymoron, literally illiterate. So genuinely, I myself went into a pretty toxic mindset right in the beginning of my prep. I was like, oh, Hunter, you just studied this last week. How come you're missing it again? You're so stupid, blah, 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 blah. It was really unhealthy till I kind of adopted a different mentality and instead kind of looked at all my missed questions as opportunities instead, growth mindset, et cetera, et cetera. But genuinely, I cannot stress how important it is to take care of yourself during this whole process. It's grueling. And if we let it, the MCAT can chew us up and spit us back out. And my final tip is kind of a straightforward and seemingly obvious one, but most of us, myself included, are guilty of just absolutely ignoring it. But if you need help, ask for it. That's the tip. There are so many people who have been through this process or who are completely uninvolved in the process but can still help in different ways, right? Family members, friends, if you've got peers or colleagues or coworkers that are going through the same struggles of the MCAT with you, it's great to have a study group or at least someone to confide in whenever you're feeling overwhelmed, which is probably going to happen at some point, if not multiple points. Now, if it comes to academically or, when it comes to the actual test, if you're struggling, ask for help. I mean, that is what people like me do. I mean, Med School Coach has built itself off of having excellent tutoring and 520 plus tutors only, right? So we've been there. We know what's going on. It's never a bad thing to ask for help if you need it. What is a bad thing? Struggling by yourself for months and months and months and not getting the score you want, right? So let's avoid that. Let's avoid that entirely. We've got a 3-month plan that's set. We know what we're doing. If we need help, we can ask for some tutors, and I am more than happy to walk y'all through it. And that's it for our 3-month study plan guide. Now, hopefully you found this video helpful, and if you follow the tips outlined here, you will walk into the testing center on test day with the knowledge, strategies, and confidence you need to crush the exam. Remember, consistency is always better than cramming, and every missed question along the way is just an opportunity for you to grow from it. Now, if you found this video helpful, go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe, smash the bell, do all the things that you gotta do so that when we post more MCAT strategy videos, you can catch them. Good luck, have fun with your studying, you've got this, and remember, if you need any help, Med School Coach and our tutoring team has got your back. Have fun.